Section 4.6, Solving Inequalities Using Multiplication and Division. In this section, we're going to solve inequalities basically the same way we solved equations using multiplication and division. So let's look at two examples. And in these examples, especially in these first two, we have to make note that the coefficient of the variable is positive, okay? So both these first two examples, the coefficient of the variable is positive. And I'm making this clear and restating it because we do something different when the sign of the coefficient of the variable is negative, okay? But that's the second half of this video. So for the first half of this video, let's just concentrate when the coefficient of the variable is positive. Okay, so let us solve this one here. We have x divided by 2 is greater than -3. So since we're dividing on this side to get rid of that 2 and to isolate the variable x, we need to multiply both sides of the equation by what? By 2, right? Because if we multiply this side by 2, 2 over 2 is the same as 1. So we have isolated our variable because our goal is to get the variable on one side and all the numbers on the other. And what we do to the left, we have to do to the right. So -3 times 2 is a -6. So our solution is x is greater than -6. And to graph it, we go to our number line. We look at -6, we do a circle, we keep it open because this is just greater than. And since it's greater than, we know our arrow needs to point to the right, right? To the right is greater than, to the left is less than, greater than. Okay, so that is our solution to this there. All right, now let's look at one more example. Again, we have 4y here. 4 is the coefficient of the variable y, and 4 is positive. Okay, so for this one, 16 is less than or equal to 4y. 4y we know is multiplication because it looks like that. So if it's multiplication, we need to do the opposite to isolate the y. So we're going to divide both sides of the equation by what? You're going to divide by 4, right? 16 divided by 4. Remember, you can write it this way, you can write it this way. Okay, so 16 divided by 4 is 4. And 4y divided by 4 is just y. So our solution is 4 is less than or equal to y. Actually, you would probably say it, y is greater than or equal to 4. When you write and say inequalities, when you have a variable, you usually want to say the variable first, okay? So while the solution is this, the form we want to use is this. Okay? Both are acceptable, but this is more common. Okay, so y is greater than or equal to 4. So where's 4 on our number line? Here it is. It's greater than or equal to, so we need to color in the circle because our solution can include 4. And like I said, greater than goes to the right, so our lovely arrow points to the right. So let's check if y was 4. Is this true? 16 less than or equal to 4 times 4. 16 less than or equal to 16. Is that true? It is, because it's less than or equal to, and 16 equals 16. Okay. And obviously all the numbers greater than 4 will also work in this inequality. Okay, so now you'll need to write in your notes, and there's 2 different tables in your notes, but you will only need to complete the first table. And there are only 1, 2, 3, 4 rows for you to complete. Okay, now that you've done that, now is the time when we need to talk about when the sign of the coefficient of the variable is negative. So what do I mean by that? If you look at this, here's the coefficient of x. It's negative 4. Negative, right? Again, here, excuse me, here's x, the variable, and its coefficient is negative 1/2, right? Because you can write this as negative 1/2 times x. That's the same as this. Okay, so basically, if your variable has a negative sign in front of it, there's something special you need to do, and we're gonna go over that. Okay, so let us do this one here. Negative 4x is greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so to solve this is multiplication, right? So we need to divide both sides of the equation by what? Let's start that over. So negative 4x and 8, we want to divide this side by negative 4, right? Because negative 4 over negative 4 is the same as 1. That isolates our x. And on this side, we want to divide by negative 4, right? But what goes here? Now, typically, in the past, we were just putting the same sign there. But this situation, when the variable is a negative or has a negative sign in front of it, we do something different. And what we do is we flip our inequality sign. Okay? When you have a negative coefficient, you must flip your inequality sign when you are solving. Okay, and this is the only situation you need to flip the inequality sign. Okay, so our solution then becomes x is less than or equal to a negative 2. And how do we graph that? Here's our negative 2. It's less than or equal to, so we need to color it in. And since I said less than or equal to, we know it has to go to the left, right? This is less, this is greater. Okay, let us look at this one here. X divided by negative 2 is less than negative 3. To isolate x by itself, on the left side, we need to multiply both sides by negative 2, right? Because negative 2 divided by negative 2 is the same as 1. So again, we're left with just x. And negative 3 times the negative 2 is 6. Okay, so it looks like this, x and 6. But since we had to multiply by a negative 2, or rather, since there is a negative in front of the coefficient of the variable, right? That's negative. We need to flip our inequality sign. So instead of it being less than, it's now going to say greater than. So our solution is x is greater than 6. And to graph that, we go to 6 over there. And we need to do greater than, and greater than we know is to the right. It's not colored in because it's not greater than or equal to. All right, so now in your notes, you need to fill in the second table, and there's one fill in the blank as well. And this section specifically targets the situation when you have a negative coefficient in front of your variable. All right, now that you're done with that, You have 2 practice problems. All right, for your practice problems, I am just going to help you with the solving part, and then you will need to make sure you also graph your solution, right? So for this first one, negative 15 is greater than 3n. Here's our coefficient, 3. It's positive, so we know we do not need to flip our inequality sign, okay? We don't flip it. So we're just going to solve this the way we have been this whole time, okay? So 3n, that's multiplication, so we need to divide both sides by 3. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. Negative 5, and then a 3 divided by 3 is a 1. So that isolates our n, right? So here's that funny way where the variable is on the right side. We want to switch it so that we say it like n is less than negative 5, right? N is less than negative 5. But let's write it this way. N is less than negative 5. Now you, on your number line, need to find negative 5, and you need to graph this. Okay, for number 2, we look at our variable. The coefficient in front of the variable is in negative, so we know we need to what? We need to flip our sign. Okay, so we have negative 6, negative 3 halves w. Now, since we have a fraction in front of our variable, we can multiply it by the reciprocal, which is 2/3, right? Okay, so if we multiply negative 3 halves times a negative 2/3, negative times a negative is a positive. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we're just left with a positive w. And on this side, negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 6 is 12 over 3, right? Because it can look like that, right? And 12 over 3 can be simplified to just plain old 4. Okay, so here we have our 2 sides, 4 and a w. But remember, since we have a negative here, we need it to flip. So our solution is like that. And again, it reads a little funny. 4 is less than, w is less than 4. We can rewrite it like that. Okay, so then on your graph, you'll need to find 4, and you'll need to graph this. And that's it.